explain what I'm going to be doing. I did use Nearpod as my platform for this presentation. So if you haven't used Nearpod before and you'd like to kind of follow along with me, what's on my screen will be on your screen if you have your laptop, smartphone, tablet with you. So you would just go to nearpod.com and there's a place to enter this code to jump on with that. So I am going to be sharing some resources, bloggers, and just some different things I found online that really helped me through my student teaching experience. And you'll be able to access those URLs directly if you connect to this. So totally optional, but just wanted to throw that out there. And it will be up top here before the whole time. So OQPAN. So I am, for those of you who don't know me, I am Chelsea Oliver, wrapping up my final semester as a Beaver. I spent this last semester student teaching back where I grew up. So I did half of my experience at Coney High School in Augusta, and then I'm finishing up right now at Messalonsky Middle School, where I actually was a student at one time. So basically, this presentation was inspired off the fact that throughout my 4 years at Farmington, especially on Symposium Day, I was always looking for that presentation by an ed student about their student teaching experience. We have portfolio presentations coming up next week, and those are an absolutely Monday through Thursday, a great way to learn about the student teaching experience. But I found that it's focused a lot more around like the curriculum, the planning, the unit that you plan, and then looking at the teaching standards. And you don't necessarily have time to learn about the day-to-day experiences that go on. So that's what this presentation was created, inspired by. I emailed my advisor, Dr. Grace, and I was like, hey, I really think this could be a cool idea. She's like, Chelsea, are you sure you have a teacher work sample? You have a standards portfolio? I'm like, you know, a big part of my philosophy is collaborating with your colleagues, your students, your teachers. So I think that this, to me, was the most exciting presentation that I would give. So that's where it was created off of. I'll talk about why I included these here, but social media I have found is a great way to collaborate with fellow educators. So I've created a separate Instagram and Twitter account for just me as a teacher with the hashtag #CountOnLearning, because I'm a math one, so I thought that was pretty clever. But I'll talk about that more in depth as we go on. So quickly, and I'm sorry this is like kind of small from way back there, but we'll make it work. I'm going to talk about it. So I want to quickly talk about each of my experiences at the high school level and the middle school level, and then I'm really just going to jump into the resources that I found and implemented and really found successful throughout my time. So I started at Coney High School. It was like January 18th or something like that, and I just want, this was first day school pic via my mother. But if you notice, it's still dark outside, and I was about to leave. So Coney started their school day at 7:05, which meant I was out the door to get to school by 6:15 at the latest every day, which I absolutely hated. So I never realized how important school start time can be. I always thought school went from 8 to 2:30, and I never really experienced different. And then starting at 7:05, I was like, are you kidding me? But made it work. So at the high school, 75-minute class periods, and I probably should have prefaced with this, but the day before my student teaching experience began, I got a call from Coney High School, and actually, instead of just student teaching there, I was a long-term sub there, so in my own classroom, just me planning all the lessons, dealing with all the high school student behaviors. So it was a very interesting experience, and I could talk all day about the lessons that I learned while at Coney. But with that being said, it was a very quick transition into being in your own classroom. I had 3 Algebra 2 classes, so 2 of those were the CP level, and then 1 was integrated, so integrated, then CP, then honors. And the hardest thing for me by far was my class sizes. I had 26 students in one, 28 students in another, and then my integrated one had 9. So that was like, I always wanted to do yoga with them. It was the last class of the day. I was like, guys, I don't know if I can do this. But the high school, one thing I want to point out is this RAM time. So that's a time, you go to one period each day of the week, and it's just this individualized one-on-one time for those students who were absent the day before, who are falling behind, who didn't finish their test. So that was a really beneficial time for me to check in with students one-on-one. Those who were all caught up could go out into the food court, and most students thought they could go out into the food court just because they thought RAM time was their time. But as a teacher, it's very important to establish those expectations day one, that RAM time or times like that is your time as a teacher to really make sure the students understand where they're at, and if they need that one-on-one time, that's a time to do so. Oh, and then I put allowed to leave at 2:15, like, 2:30 is the teacher life. And I knew that you'd get to school early and you'd stay late, but some nights my mom would be texting me at like 5 p.m., Chelsea, dinner's ready, where are you? I'm like, I'm not home yet, but, so we had to stay until 2:15, but I mean, after school is when all of the planning happens. You don't have time during your prep period to do that, so it was, yeah. So then I made the transition to Meslonsky Middle School, and that is where I am today, and I am definitely a middle school person, and I knew that before I started my student teaching experience, and this has just solidified that for me even more. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, you can see this schedule compared to the one at Coney is much longer. There are a lot more activities in the day. So that means that class periods are shorter. We have 50-minute class periods. So you're constantly moving around. Additionally, I have year-round teams. So most middle schools, especially in Maine, are set up in the team community style. So you have yourself and then 3 team teachers, and you teach all the subjects through the 4 of you, which means that you have the same 80 students. So at 7:45 each day, I'm meeting with my team teachers and we're checking in. What are you doing today? Oh, this student ended the day really poorly yesterday. I got this email from this parent. So it's just a really good time to check in on those students who, at the high school level, I found it was really hard for me to figure out why a student was acting the way they were acting, because they were with me for 70 minutes and then they were gone until the next day. So this was a really good way to address that. Additionally, you have the same prep period with your middle school community, so that's another time to check in. You have lunch together. And as I mentioned, collaboration is where I thrive, so I just really love that opportunity to be working with the same group of teachers all day long. So, student teaching, I mean, you're in school 5 days a week, planning on the weekends, but I learned very quickly how essential it is to schedule activities out of school and to plan for time for yourself out of the classroom. So a few things that I really think are essential to being successful as a teacher. One is meal prepping my lunches on Sunday night, because otherwise I get to school without a lunch. I'm like, man, I'm so hungry. And my twin would often be like, oh, I'll make lunch on Sunday, and then she wouldn't, so I'd end up without a lunch. So that's just a simple way for me to make sure that I'm not stressing at 5:30 in the morning about, oh, do I want to eat a salad for lunch or not? Me time every day is another one. You have to put teaching aside. I mean, you could plan all day long and still have more planning to do and never feel like your lesson is good enough, but it is good enough. So you need to make that time to really put that aside and focus on you. So fresh air is a big way that I did that, getting outside, walking my dog, exercising, just ways to turn off that teacher switch, because it could be on 24 hours a day if we let it. And I think that can lead down a funky path. So another big part of my philosophy is reflecting. And I think I've learned a lot, especially this semester, through the reflections that I have made regarding this student teaching experience. So whether you have a good day in the classroom or a bad day in the classroom, taking the time to reflect on student behavior, on how a lesson went, on what's going on down the road. Are your students ready to take this assessment that you thought they would be ready to take, but maybe they're not? So just making good informed decisions based on your actual experiences rather than just making that unit plan and never altering from it. So, that's that. Okay, so I know we've all heard the term do not recreate the wheel. I think you've heard that. I mean, we all hear it in different aspects of our life, but the resources that are out there for lesson planning and for engaging activities for students are amazing. So this semester I used this a lot in knowing, well, I want to do this with my students, but there's already something out there. I know there is, we just got to look for it. So this is where I transition into the different ways that I use found resources that help me be successful. So the first was at Coney High School when I had those huge class sizes. Absent students was something that I was totally unprepared for. I thought that I'd have time the next day for them to come in, show them what we did, and move on, but they'd come into class would be started, they'd be late. Hey, Miss Oliver, what did we do yesterday? As I'm like starting the lesson for that day. So crafty teacher lady, who's actually, she lives in Maine, she has a blog, and she had a post about having an absent work in. So this works so well for me. I just explained it to the students. There was a folder for every class period, and so if a student was absent, I had this paper, put their name on it, told them what we did, staple it, and put it in here. And that way, they were held accountable for if you're absent, it's your responsibility to look in the absent bin, see what you have, and then come to me. So that was just a good way for me to deal with that, because it's crazy. You think you have time in the day to check in one-on-one with students, but you don't. Oh, I'll do it during lunch. No, you won't. You're gonna run to the teacher's room. So that's just that website. Okay, so another mistake that I made early on at Coney was collecting homework. So I'd assign, worksheet, whatever, and then I'd collect it the next day, and I told them, I'm not going to grade it, but I want to see how you did. And so then I'd spend an hour and a half after school looking at the homework, putting some feedback on it, not putting a grade on it, giving it back to them, goes in their cycle. And they would just never look at it. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to be assigning homework, it needs to be something that's meaningful. That way, if I do look at it, it's actually going to tell me something, and it's going to help inform the students about where they're at. So Jo Bowler is like one of my, love her. And these are just two of the books that she has come out with. She's a huge math person. And she talks a lot about just like having a mathematical mindset and why are students not engaged in the classroom. So a lot of my homework assignments have prompts on them that are ask students, what did you struggle with today? Tell me about a mistake you made today and then how you fixed it. What conversation did we have today? Just really having them reflect on their learning experiences, so that we can move forward together and I can understand where they're struggling with or not. So one of my goals starting student teaching was to learn how to implement technology in an efficient way that was engaging and effective for the students. So the way that I learned to do this was from a blog post, and it's from workbook. So basically, you take a packet of work and you turn it into a Google Slides presentation. That's, hey, people are following, that's cool. That students can then go in, make a copy of it, and make it their own. So how this works, I know this is really small, but this is like graphing inequalities. So then take the correct number line and then drag it with the right boundary point, put it at the boundary point, and show me their work that way, and then they'd be able to share that with me. So I had never seen this before. It was from a blogger that posted on her Instagram account. So another way that social media just really helped me out. Students can click and drag. This one shows an example of how there is hints behind a text box, so they can remove that if they need the hints. So I just Google workbooks that was like a revelation. I was so excited for that lesson because I thought the students would actually be engaged, and they were. So, okay, 6 minutes left. So I talked about social media, and I just want to talk about that, take some time right now, because the resources and the inspiration that I have gotten, you just get re-motivated and re-energized when you see a blog post or an Instagram post about a teacher who had a really good day in the classroom and who used this lesson and it worked so well. So I've just listed and I'll have this Google slide available if you would like this, but all of these are linked. Teachers Pay Teachers is a website. There are free things, but then there are also things you can pay for, lessons, just individual activities. This Jeopardy game, which was so easy to put together, was on Teachers Pay Teachers. I'm still struggling with the idea of paying for a lesson or something like that, because I think teaching is such a collaborative experience, and nobody's work is 100% their own. They got the idea from somewhere, they got the problems from a textbook, and a lot of the stuff does cost money. So that would be a downside to Teachers Pay Teachers, but irregardless, sometimes it's easier to just pay $3.50 than spend the next 3 hours making an activity. And then bloggers and vloggers are another just great way to get inspiration. So I actually found this from my twin, who's an elementary ed major. Pocketful of Primary, she does a weekly vlog of her classroom. So she, like in the morning, getting her Dunkin', gets to school, lays out what is going on in her day. If she's doing a cool STEM activity, she'll record her students doing that. And a lot of reflection every day after school. How did my day go? How was student behavior? What am I going to do tomorrow? I'm leaving school right now because I just can't deal with this environment anymore. So she goes live at 7 a.m. every Saturday. So this was just a great way for me to also unwind. She's an elementary school teacher, so I didn't think I was going to enjoy watching these vlogs with Shauna, but I love them. So it's really cool just to see what other teachers are doing in their classroom. Okay, so for those of you who are at Stephen's presentation earlier, you saw a little bit about what Student MEA is. But I think a lot of my success here at Farmington was because of my involvement with this club on campus. So Student MEA is affiliated with the Maine Education Association, and the professional development opportunities that I have gained through Student MEA is just amazing. Here, there are annual fall and spring conferences. This one is at the Samoset in Rockport, so you're on the ocean for the weekend. And there's a day of professional development, collaborating with in-service teachers, with ed techs, with bus drivers, and just really learning a lot from other people's experiences. This bottom one was just a couple weeks ago. As a UMF student, the conference is actually here, and I got to sit in on a presentation by Beth Evans, who's a UMF professor. Connor was presenting, and some other UMF students. So it was so cool to be at an MEA conference and seeing the work of Farmington, of our great education program, put into use. So I also got sent to Washington, D.C. Last summer as a member of Student MEA, so that was a student leadership conference. Where, I mean, there was, I don't know the number, but we were there for 5 days learning from each other and exploring Washington, D.C. So, can't say enough about that. All right, so this is my last slide. My field supervisor sent me an email last week saying this is definitely a student teaching experience you will never forget. And I completely 100% agree. It's individual to everyone, and it's a really good opportunity for you to really just find your fit and find where you belong. So with that,